Well, Dr. Simon Adams is the Executive Director of the Global Centre for the Responsibility to Protect, an NGO that's been working in Myanmar for nearly 10 years. Thank you so much for coming on the programme. So we've had these protests for weeks now. It feels like it's building towards something, but what that something is isn't clear. What's your assessment?
Well, I agree with what you just said. I mean, nobody knows what the future holds, but clearly the military is determined to impose this military coup, to crack down on these protests. But equally, we've seen these inspiring scenes of people just absolutely refusing to be cowed by the military, and even people in international diplomacy. The ambassador was mentioned at the top of your piece, calling for further defiance and so forth. And so I think the onus of responsibility is now very much on the international community to send a signal to the new military rulers that there will be no business as usual for them.
Well, you say send a signal. What does that actually mean in practice? People will be asking, what should the international community actually practically be doing?
Well, there's four very simple things. One, they should impose an arms embargo, a total arms embargo on the country of Myanmar. Secondly, they should impose targeted sanctions on all the generals, but especially General Min Aung Hlaing, who is not only responsible for the genocide against the Rohingya in 2017, but is now the leader of this coup. Thirdly, they should divest from all these massive conglomerations that the military controls inside the country. And finally, there should be no recognition of this government as anything approaching a legitimate government in the world of international diplomacy.
But this is a country, of course, which was ruled by the military for a long time. It was criticised internationally. It's not a country, and certainly when under military rule, that is too bothered by international criticism.
I don't think they're bothered by not being on people's Christmas card list, but I think what they are bothered about targeted sanctions, which hit the generals directly, and also about their business interests, because the military is not only a force of violence inside Myanmar, it's also a massive money-making enterprise. So I think if you target those enterprises, that actually does make the generals sit up in their chair and pay notice. And we've already seen, today, Woodside, the massive Australian resource firm, said that it's withdrawing from Myanmar. Other countries have said they're severing their development aid, that they're severing their military ties and other ties. Those things actually will hurt the generals and will make them take the situation seriously.
OK, and just quickly going back to the protests themselves, we've seen those big numbers on the streets. Clearly there's a big groundswell of opposition to the military coup. That much is obvious. But how much support for the military is there in Myanmar?
I mean, there is some support, that's undeniable, but I think it's also worth keeping in mind that if you look at the numbers that in the election that happened in November last year, it means most people who are serving in the military at the moment possibly voted for the National League for Democracy, possibly voted for the people that the coup was intended to topple. Also, we've seen people out on the streets, armed thugs essentially being deployed and in kind of collaboration with the military going around and attacking protesters. But it's clear that the overwhelming majority of the population are opposed to this coup and want essentially a better future than that which military rule offers them.
Simon Adams, great to talk to you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.